What does it feel like to be invited to a table where no one wants you to sit? I learned the answer that night, standing in the doorway of a dining room filled with laughter that wasn't meant for me. My husband, David, had insisted I come to this dinner with his old college friends, a group I'd met only once before. "It'll be fun," he'd said, his eyes bright with nostalgia. But as I stood there, clutching my purse, the warmth of his words felt like a lie. The table was set for 7, exactly the number of them, with no place for me. The room was alive with chatter, clinking glasses, and the savory aroma of roasted lamb. David's friends, polished and self-assured, barely glanced my way as I entered. There was Mark, the loud one, cracking jokes, Sarah, his sharp-tongued wife, and the others, a blur of tailored suits and practiced smiles. David, already seated, caught my eye and gestured vaguely toward the table. I scanned it, my heart sinking. 7 plates, 7 chairs, 7 glasses of wine. Not one for me. "Oh, Anna," Sarah said, her voice dripping with false surprise. "I didn't realize you were coming. We must have miscounted." Her smile was a blade, and the others exchanged glances, some amused, some indifferent. David shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing. I stood frozen, the weight of their dismissal pressing against my chest. I could have left. I could have slipped out, nursed my hurt in private. But something in me stirred a quiet, stubborn fire. I smiled, the kind of smile that hides a storm. "No trouble at all," I said, my voice steady. "I'll just grab a chair." I walked to the corner of the room, where a folding chair leaned against the wall, and dragged it to the table. The screech of metal on would cut through their laughter like a warning. I placed it at the head of the table, where no one had claimed a seat, and sat down. The room fell silent, their eyes on me, waiting. Mark chuckled, breaking the tension. "Well, that's one way to make an entrance," he said, leaning back. "So, Anna, what do you do again? David says you're into what? Painting or something?" His tone was patronizing, as if my life's work was a hobby to be humored. The others smirked, sipping their wine. David looked down at his plate. "I'm an artist," I said, meeting Mark's gaze. "I paint stories, real ones, about people who've been overlooked but refuse to be erased." My words hung in the air, sharp and deliberate. Sarah raised an eyebrow, but I didn't flinch. "In fact," I continued, "I've been working on a piece inspired by moments like this, when people assume you don't belong." The table stilled again. David's fork paused midair. I reached into my purse and pulled out my phone, scrolling to a photo of my latest painting, a woman standing alone in a crowded room, her shadow stretching tall and unbroken. I held it up, letting the image speak for itself. "This is what I see tonight," I said. "A room full of people who forgot to make space for someone they invited." Sarah's smile faltered. Mark cleared his throat, suddenly interested in his napkin. The others shifted in their seats, their confidence unraveling. David finally spoke, his voice low. "Anna, that's powerful." But I wasn't done. I turned to him, my heart pounding but my voice calm. "You invited me here, David. Why didn't you notice there was no seat for me?" His face flushed, guilt flickering in his eyes. The room was a vacuum now, the air heavy with unspoken truths. I stood, my chair scraping softly. "I don't need a seat to know my worth," I said. "But you all might want to think about who you're leaving out and why." I walked to the door, my steps steady, their silence deafening behind me. Outside, the night air was cool against my skin. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I felt free. The painting I'd shown them wasn't just a piece of art, it was me, claiming my place in a world that tried to sideline me. David called later, his voice thick with apologies, promising to make things right. But I knew the real work was mine. To keep standing, to keep creating, to keep silencing tables with the truth of who I am. The next day, I started a new painting. A woman at the head of a table, her chair carved from her own strength, her presence undeniable. It was for me and for anyone who's ever been left standing, wondering where they fit. Sometimes, you don't need a seat. You make your own.